Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games on this F Around Friday. Joining me as always is Philadelphia's number one hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Charlie? How are we? How's development camp been treating you?
It's rolling along. We are now done all of the drill days because today was the final drill day. Tomorrow is the scrimmage, and I think there will be morning skates, which I don't know what the point of a morning skate for a scrimmage is, but sure, I guess we're going to do that. But really, development camp at its core is now finished. It's now just onto the scrimmage, and then it will be done. And really, at least based on what Danny Briere said on July 1st, if we don't see a Flyers trade in the next maybe 3-4 days, we might be reaching the end of the busy portion of the offseason.
I'll tell you, I could really go for a trade, Charlie. I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I love development camp, it's not really doing it for me in terms of showtime. I gotta be honest. I don't know if can we trade Scott Lawton or something? Do something. Come on, Danny, us, for the content creators. Why don't you ever consider the content creators? But before we start today, I do need to issue this statement. If one of our listeners, watchers, whatever out there, if one of you was in a bike accident with a drunk pedestrian in a Jaws tank top on Thursday night at 43rd and Pleasure in Sea Isle, that's my bad. While you may have been taking your bike down the wrong way of a one-way street, I absolutely wasn't looking and just wandered directly into you. If your sunglasses are beyond repair, reach out. Maybe we can figure something out with Shady Rays. It was a pretty fun 4th of July. Seriously, though, shout out to Kelly and her family. Charlie and I both thinking about all you today. Doesn't seem like anything too serious. Don't want to worry the fans out there. But we all love Kelly. We wanted to reach out. Let the Hinkses know we're thinking about them. So, Chuck, let us get now to the hockey. Development camp, final day of the drills, watching dudes practice. I'm sure it's thrilling stuff for you, but run us through what you've seen. We kind of went through some of the prospects the other day, but the big name guys like Jet Luchenko, we'll start with the headliner. What any updates? See anything new out of him? Do anything exciting? Anything concerning?
Yeah, not really. I thought he was fine. The big thing with him is his skating. And that pops every time you watch him. He just has the ability to accelerate. He has the explosiveness, and it's impressive. Now, I wouldn't say that he jumped out in any other way today, other than the fact that he's just faster than basically everybody at this camp. But he was fine. I'm intrigued to see how he looks in the scrimmage, because that's when we'll get to see if, he can make moves with the puck at his speed against other players in an actual game-like setting. That's going to be interesting, but I wouldn't say he was one of the big standouts today. That said, I didn't think there were a ton of gigantic standouts today. It was a pretty, I wouldn't say it was a chill day. It was a battle day. There were competitive drills to be sure, but I don't think there was, 2 or 3 guys where I thought to myself, man, they look incredible. Oliver Bonk had a solid day. He played good defense. I got quite a few videos of him stuffing opposing players, or I guess teammates, who are not really opposing players because it's development camp. But, on a drill, he was able to shut down an offensive attempt. He was fine. I don't think he was incredible, but he was fine. He looked like a top-tier prospect, same as Luchenko did.
Yeah, I wanted, with it being battle drills, Oliver Bonk, obviously one of last year's draft picks, a first-rounder, really broke out last season, but you'd like to see him be, I guess, physically assertive in drills like this. Is that something you can confidently say, oh yeah, he is absolutely, amongst his peers, guys his age, prospects, he is more than capable in these situations?
Yeah, he certainly never looked overwhelmed. And to be honest, there's actually quite a few players in this camp that are significantly older than Bob, because there's a lot of camp invites here. And a lot of those camp invites are on the older side. They're 20 and older. So Bonk isn't, I would say, one of the older players at this camp. But yeah, he looks good. I would say that in the corners, in front of the net, he looks very much able and capable of fighting and winning those battles. Was he dominant in those physical battles? No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, he lost some, but he looked good, and he's got the positioning. He has those natural instincts, I think, that he knows how to seal guys off. The guy I will say, if we're talking about defensively, and maybe this shouldn't come as a shock given it's his calling card, like Hunter McDonald looked really good at defensive drills. He particularly when he gets someone along the boards, they ain't going anywhere. I mean, the physical strength, the positioning, the leverage, that's all there. And I actually thought, I thought he had a good day, because I thought that Wednesday, Thursday was 4th of July, so they did not practice. So it would have been Wednesday. I thought Wednesday he looked good. He looked good defensively, but whenever he had the puck, it was clear he didn't have a clue what to do with it, particularly when they were on the attack. Today, he was doing more things with the puck. He had a couple goals. Just like one-timers. His shot looks heavy. I don't think he's going to score a ton, but it's not a weak shot. He can bomb it. There's some power behind there, and he was making some better passes with the puck, because on Wednesday he was good at passing. If you're talking about like a quick first pass on the breakout, because they do a ton of breakout drills, but when he was moving up ice with the puck on the attack, it was just like he didn't seem like he knew what he was doing. He made smarter plays with the puck today, where he was actually finding guys on 2-on-1s and just moving the puck better on the rush. That's never going to be a major part of his game, but he has to be able to at least not be terrible at it. He can't be destroying every rush he happens to be on. And today he showed a little bit more, and the defensive skills, they're undeniable. So the more you watch him, you do see what the Flyers like in him. Now, whether he's going to be such an offensive liability that it's not going to allow him to take full advantage of his clear defensive skills, we'll see. But you watch him play, and you can see why the Flyers think he can be an NHL defenseman, to be sure.
So it's like, and that's what I wanted to, okay. So like the Flyers think he's going to be an NHL defenseman, and I love hearing that he looked good in this stuff. Like he's my guy, man. I'm all about Hunter McDonald. They've sold me on him. But like when you say take full advantage, is it more like, yeah, I see the NHL potential, but is he going to be a 14-minute-a-night guy because he has so little offense versus an 18-minute-a-night guy because you can put him out there in more offensive situations? Is that what is that what you mean when like hold him back?
Well, it's hard for me to say, because I mean, in the end, he's going to get ice time from the Flyers, and the Flyers really like him, so they're going to use him. For me, it's more like, I think he's a bottom half of the lineup defenseman. And I think they even believe that he's like his ceiling is something like a 4, and most likely he's more of a third pair guy. Maybe you could put him on a top 4 pairing with a puck mover, but he doesn't necessarily get as many minutes as the puck mover. Like they strategically deploy him. To me, it's more like he's going to get an opportunity, whether it's this year or next year. He's going to play. Is he a guy where, if you look at his underlying metrics, he's on the ice for 40% of the expected goals, and his underlying metrics, his shot differential, his expected goal differential, it's in the toilet, because every time he's on the ice, the Flyers create zero offense because he's just incapable of helping even a little bit. Like, that's my big fear. I'm thinking back to, like a guy like Robert Haig, where, Haig played because the coaches liked him, because he had physical tools, and because he hit. But when he was out there, the Flyers got crushed from a shot and chance differential standpoint, and it hurt their chances of winning. Now, for me, I do see enough in the physical tools for McDonald to hope that maybe, I think the dream outcome for somebody like him is like a Chris Tanev. Like, that's the dream, where, he's got good enough physical tools where you can stick him next to a puck mover and his underlying results can be good. And he's never going to produce a ton of points. He's never going to score a lot of goals, but he can be a great complement to a puck mover while bringing that intimidation, that defensive zone play, that physicality that teams really want. I just worry that, is he going to be the guy where every time they throw him out there, the Flyers are spending 70% of the time in the defensive zone. And he's real good. We used to joke about it with McDonald. He's real good at generating defense, but that's only, a little bit of the game. The best defense is having the puck. And if McDonald is poor enough with the puck that the Flyers don't have it that much when he's out there, he might get ice time, but he's going to be hurting the Flyers' chances of winning. Like, that's my big fear with McDonald. Not that he's not going to make it, because Flyers made it very clear they're going to give him a shot. Is he going to be a net negative on the ice because he doesn't have enough going for him beyond the defensive skills? You're seeing like parts of it pop in this camp. I'm still not 100% sold, but I'm willing to give it a go.
McDonald, Drysdale, Charlie, the future, the best third pair in the league. I can't wait.
Ouch.
That's what's good.
Ouch.
That's what's going to win us the cup. They lost the cup because they had no third pair. All right.
I'm just saying, if Jamie Drysdale's a third pair defenseman long term, they are going to be very disappointed.
Maybe it's just an awesome third pair. Like, what if like York and Sanheim stick together? That's not a third pair. Bonk and then whoever, not Victor Hedman now because he re-upped with the Lightning, but Bonk and whoever they end up drafting or buying or whatever. There's only so many you're the third pair on an awesome defense, maybe. I'm not disparaging the man. I still have high hopes for him. Hunter McDonald, Jamie Drysdale, killing it. Did anything else really stand out at the scrimmage today or at the development camp? Scrimmages tomorrow at 6. They do a fan fest thing, you were saying. That's pretty cool. So you can get autographs from the prospects. Like that's a good time for all. But anything else before the scrimmage tomorrow?
I thought a couple of guys who, maybe hadn't necessarily stood out to me in the first couple days of camp that had better days that legitimately maybe stand up and take notice. I thought Denver Barkey had his strongest day. He made some legitimately solid moves with the puck, especially in close. He looked strong offensively. He showed that bite to his game that people love. And I really don't I'm not good at watching goalies, but I can tell you that Carson Bjarnason was making a lot of really good saves. That this was the first day where, because it's basically at this camp, it's basically just him and then 2 camp invites.
Yeah.
And the first couple days, it was kind of hard to tell, okay, which one's Bjarnason, which one is the other guy, the Princeton guy or whatever. This time, it was abundantly clear when Carson Bjarnason was in net because the pucks weren't going in.
I saw the video of the one reach back save with the little Bob-esque there with the stick coming back for it. That was really good. I saw you tweet out about Alex Ciernik and the concussions he went through last season, had a couple of them. Did you want to talk about that a bit, maybe? It's developing.
Yeah, that was fair. I mean, we talked to Ciernik and I knew about this. I knew that he had these issues. Basically, my understanding, what I've heard from the people I've talked to is he got hurt earlier in his season. He got concussed. And Ciernik essentially confirmed all this today. This was all, he didn't shy away from it. And he really, really wanted to play in the World Juniors. So I think, he went through the protocol, he passed the protocols, but he probably came back too soon because he really wanted to play in World Juniors. Then he goes to World Juniors and he gets concussed a second time. And it probably, I don't think this is a case of now he's prone to concussions. I think it's that they probably should have waited longer, but because he wanted to play and because he passed all the things and said he didn't have any symptoms, they let him go. And then a game or 2 in, he gets concussed again. Then after that, they took it real careful with him. He basically told us that, he didn't have symptoms, but they kept him out for another month and a half, 2 months after his symptoms stopped, just because they were okay, this ain't happening again. The positive is he seems fine now. The negative is it did basically ruin his entire draft plus 1 season. He's an exciting prospect. I like that pick in the 4th round. It was an upside swing. He's got real skill. And his draft plus 1 year just kind of got wrecked by concussions, which sucks. But it'll be interesting to see how he does this year. I believe he said at the end of his interview today he's going to be with a new team in Sweden. I imagine he's probably still going to play in the Allsvenskan, but I'm not 100% sure on that front. I need to go dig it on that. But this will be an interesting year for him, I'll say, because last year kind of seems like it was a bit of a wash due to the injuries. Hopefully he's fully past the concussions, and then we can see if the Flyers did truly get a steal in round 4.
That is so scary, man. Just, you can have all the protocols in the world, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you got a headache? Nah. Oh, all right. Well, I guess if he says he has no symptoms, like, you can only do so much diagnosing, and it makes sense that they're like, no, we're not letting you back out there. You already lied to us once, basically, or if not lied, like, maybe weren't as forthcoming as you should have been. We're going to take it a little more seriously. We're going to be a little more strict with this. And hopefully he has that bounce back season and we see him soon. We've seen guys like Pascal LeBurge, like, oh yeah, man, he's exciting prospect. And just some guys, it just happens to, and that's that. Some dudes bounce right back from him and some don't. Hopefully he's one that this is just a little bump in the road for him. All right. If that's pretty much it from development camp, scrimmage is Saturday. Hope people head out there. Hope you bring the kids, get the prospect autographs, all that at Fan Fest. It'll be a good time. Let me tell you about Manscaped. That's right, it's Manscaped time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack summer is officially upon us. And when you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed from pubes to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. You can get 20% off and free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code FLYERS. Summertime and the trimming's easy. Listen, we all want to look our best, even if we're headed to like maybe no shower happy hour. There's no reason not to be trimmed and smelling great, and Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to ensure your summer of love isn't a disaster. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for just taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. They also have a dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3-length setting combs, and did I mention this trimmer's waterproof too? So if you, for some reason, really feel like shaving at the beach or the lake, I would recommend the shower personally in the confines of your own home. This razor will devour even the strongest pubes. Now that you have the perfect haircut, use Manscaped's liquid formulations to keep that freshness even at the hottest summer barbecues. The Crop Soother Aftershave Lotion and Crop Preserver Anti-Chafe Ball Deodorant. Once they touch your sack, you'll never go back. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts for their Performance Package 5.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code FLYERS at manscaped.com right now. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code FLYERS at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. And now, while I'm here selling you things, let me tell you about one of our newest sponsors here, our friends at Indeed. Listen, we're all driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global visitors and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. How do they do it? They leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join the more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Indeed, you do. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit of free agency today, Charlie, because we've mentioned some things. We've kind of the first day when everything was really happening. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, Stamkos, wow, that's crazy. But we really haven't dove into the rest of the league and some of the big moves. So I'm going to do that today. And one of our sponsors, I'm not doing another read anytime soon. That was quite cumbersome. But one of our sponsors today. One of the sponsors today is the Bet Park Sportsbook, and I got just for fun checked out some of the future odds on some teams in the East and a few around the league. But I want to start with, I guess, the team I thought made some of the most surprising moves of the offseason. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning, I guess, trying to reload, get back to their championship caliber, reclaim the Eastern Conference and Florida, the state itself, for them, and not the reigning champion Panthers. But they're at 19-1 to win the Cup. They traded for and re-signed Jake Gensel. But Stamkos leaves. Sergachev is traded. I thought all of this was really interesting. But the first thing I want to mention, our boy Cam found a new home in Tampa. Cam Atkinson signed as a free agent after the Flyers bought him out. It was, I'm pretty sure, league minimum. Was it 950?
Little above.
Yeah, little
above. Yeah, I believe league minimum is $775, so a little bit above.
Right. Okay. Cam Atkinson, it makes sense, I guess, if you're chasing a cup to go to one of these teams that's trying to win one. A little surprised it wasn't Columbus, though. I just figured he loves Columbus. Columbus loves him. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I feel like if Tampa's a team where if they call and they're interested, it's a really good fit. You know, and then maybe Columbus was interested, but the thing with Tampa, and this goes back to just the way they have to be built, given the star power they have, and given the amount of money they have to spend to keep those guys, they have to kind of piecemeal together their depth. So they have to go for guys like Cam Atkinson, who aren't that expensive, and hope that they can, get a little bit more out of them. So for Atkinson, it makes all the sense in the world because, you have obviously Kucherov, you have Point, now you have Gensel, we'll get to him in a sec, you have Cirelli. So they have their guys at the top. But then after that, there's going to be room for Cam Atkinson, if he still does have something left in the tank, to maybe get a middle six role on this team. Because, he's not going to be a top-line guy because their top-line guys are stars. But it falls off a cliff afterwards. That's part of the problem when you're paying 4 or 5 guys $9 million plus. So this will be an opportunity for Atkinson to actually have potentially a scoring role. He could be on the power play in Tampa if he shows he still has it. Now, if he shows he doesn't, if he's truly cooked and they find out by the end of the first month of the year that he just can't keep up anymore, then he might be a healthy scratch anyway. And they might call somebody up from the minors and see if they can do their Tampa thing where they turn some no-namer named Nick Perbix into an NHL player. But he's going to get an opportunity, and he's going to get an opportunity on a good team. Perfect example. If he got signed by Dallas, he would never play because they're very deep. Whereas Tampa is a team that has designs on contending, but they're not that deep. So it's a cool fit for him because he can play on a team that wants to try to win it all. Now, whether they can or not, I'm skeptical. But the very least, they're probably a playoff team. And he gets to join a team that is good, that he actually might get a not insignificant role. So for Atkinson, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I think a team that has Kucherov, Point, Hedman, and Vasilevsky, you can't just be I don't think so. I don't think they should be the favorites or anything. They're not, but no. It wouldn't shock me if they won the Stanley Cup. This would not be surprising to me if they are lifting the cup a year from now.
They're good enough. They're good enough where they could get hot and go on a run. If their star players just go crazy for a month and a half. Yeah. If
Kucherov, just goes nuts and Vasilevsky has a 950, all these things are in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
They're very much on the table. But they did bring in a new star as well in Jake Gensel. How surprised are you they traded for Gensel's rights and re-signed him rather than just keeping the greatest player in franchise history?
It's bold. And you know what? I actually respect it. Now, apparently, like, the negotiations with Stamkos did not go as cordial as they would have hoped for someone who is truly a franchise legend. And that'll have to be probably resolved at some point down the road. I'm sure this ends with his banner, being raised to the rafters and,
Oh,
retiring and Hall of Famer. But like right now, there's some bad blood there because I think what Stamkos, there was a good article, I believe it was written, I forget who wrote it, somebody at The Athletic, but I think it was Chris Johnston who wrote it. And basically the point he made was that Stamkos felt like Tampa was taking advantage of his love of Tampa to try to get him to agree to a deal that was paying him way, way less than what he was worth. And it's possible that, like, he was certainly willing to give them a hometown discount. Tampa pushed it a bit too far, and then he ultimately was like, "Screw you! This is insane. I'm still a good player," and he is. He still can score goals. It's not as good as he was 4 or 5 years ago, but he's still a legitimately solid offensive producer. By the same token, though, I think Gensel is a better bet to, like, Gensel's what, 4 years, 5 years younger than Stamkos. If they would have re-signed Stamkos to like a deal similar to the one he ultimately signed in Nashville, I think Tampa is pretty likely to just stay in this muddled middle where, like, they make the playoffs, but they have no chance. Now you've got a younger goal scorer who you could sign to a longer deal than probably Stamkos would have deserved, but I think there's a very good chance that Jake Gensel is significantly more productive over the next 4 years than Steven Stamkos, 34, 35, 36-year-old Steven Stamkos would be. So it shows me that Tampa isn't willing to just like there are some teams, Washington being a good example, where like their goal right now is to allow Alex Ovechkin to stay on a competitive team through the end of his tenure in the NHL. That is their goal. They're not trying to win cups. They're trying to have it so Ovi can break the record and be on a decent enough team. Tampa could have easily just been like, you know what? We got our cups. We're keeping the gang together. They're all going to age. We're probably not going to be a cup contender anymore, but everybody gets to retire a Lightning player and it's all going to be happy, sing Kumbaya, whatever. This shows me that they have a little cutthroat to it. And they're looking at it as, you know what? Gensel will probably be better over the next 4 years than Stamkos would be. And we still want to win cups. So I don't know if it's gonna do it. They still probably aren't as good as like Florida, and the best teams in the Metro, and maybe even not even Toronto, depending upon what they do. But they're still a good team, and I think Jake Gensel will be better over the next 3 to 4 years than Stamkos would have been. So in that sense, it's a good move.
Anyone watching who just saw my face, my 14-year-old dog just leapt from one bed to the other, and I did not think he was going to make it, and he did. So I'm very happy because I would have had to be rushing the dog to the emergency vet if he didn't make that jump. I was like, "What are you doing?" But he did it. So way to go, Bo. No, I just this decline for Stamkos. I get, yeah, he's not like a top 5, top 10 player in the league anymore, but man, he had 40 goals last year. Like, he's been a point-a-game player the last 2 years. Before that, he was a 100-point player. Like, I just, like, this decline for Stamkos is still theoretical. Like, oh, yeah, he's gonna slow down, but he hasn't really. I mean, again, not the same player, but he scored 40. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I realize goal scoring's up in the league. Like, individuals are just scoring more goals than they did a few years ago, but 40 is still a pretty decent number. I was just a little surprised that he got out of town. And I guess the Sergachev trade too, after they brought back McDonough. I was, okay, so they're going to ship out Sergachev. But if it's all in, let's get younger, bring in Gensel, I guess it makes sense. So we will see about the Lightning and that 19-1 number. We look now at one of the favorites in the East, the Carolina Hurricanes, Charlie. They made a couple of my favorite moves of the offseason. Sean Walker, who I just really enjoyed watching as a Flyer. Shane Gostisbehere, always will be a fan of his. Eric Robinson, local guy. And the William Carrier contract just cracks me up. I love contracts like this. 6 years with an AAV of $2 million. Like, we like what you do. We value what you do. It's just you don't get paid that much for it. But we want you doing those things for a long time. I just am always tickled by contracts that are long-term for for lesser amounts of money than you typically see with long-term deals. But Carolina is They just at some point need to. I know they tried it with Gensel and they brought in Kuznetsov and all that, but it just seems like they need to do a little bit more to finally get over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike their offseason
No.
at first glance. Now, granted, a lot of it is going to depend on what they ultimately do with Natchez, because that is still an outstanding piece of business. Are they going to re-sign him? Are they going to trade him? He hasn't been traded yet, but the rumors are still out there, so I guess we'll see. And if they don't trade him, they got to re-sign him, so we'll see how that goes. But I don't dislike their offseason, other than they made some shrewd signings. I do think they got worse. Like, I think their defense is worse than it was. They lost Brett Pesce, who's a really good defenseman. They lost Brady Shea, who developed into a good defenseman for them. Like, I don't think replacing them with Ghost and Walker is an upgrade. I think it's a downgrade. So the defense is not going to be as strong. Now, the way they're probably looking at it, which I get, is they have Nikishin coming. But the thing is that he's not going to be here until next year. Now, he should give that defense an enormous infusion of talent when he gets here, but he's still under contract in the KHL for one more season. So this season, I think the defense, at least on paper, appears to have taken a step back. And like, Walker's a risk. I really liked what we saw in Sean Walker, but he's a risk. He's a risk because he's had injuries in the past. And last season was by far his best season by the numbers. Now, maybe that's just who he is now. Maybe it was just he happened to be in the perfect system in Philadelphia, because while he was good in Colorado after the trade, he wasn't as good as he was in Philly. So I truly don't know how this can play. I think Carolina is still going to be good. And I think I understand why they made the decisions they made, because I get why they're looking at it as like, well, Shea got too much. And, Pesci's a little on the older side. I get why they let them go. I do. But I look at their team and I think they took a bit of a step back this year. Not to the point where I don't think they're going to be in contention. It's just that last year I thought they were one of the best teams on paper, and I'm not sure I feel that way right now. But hey, we'll see how the Natchez situation gets played out, because maybe they make a really good trade and they bring in fresh blood in that way, and then suddenly their roster looks a lot more exciting.
I guess with the 5 years, he is 30 years old, so it stretches out the money a little bit, but you're surprised he didn't get more? I think it's 3.6 cap hit. I thought he was going to get 5. I just kind of a guess. I realized the offensive numbers weren't, like, you watch the way he played and the way he set up this Flyers offense last year and what they looked like after he left, you would have guessed he had a lot more assists than he had, perhaps, and put up some shorthanded goals as well, but not the astronomical offensive numbers that you typically get paid for. Were you surprised it wasn't more?
No, I think he wanted more. My guess is that Carolina was able to knock the cap hit down by adding an extra year or two, because I don't think the Flyers ever were going to do this kind of term with him, given the fact that they have the young guys coming. They have guys like Oliver Bond coming. They now have Jamie Drysdale in the organization. But I think the Flyers would have been open to a shorter term. I suspect the Flyers probably would have given him a higher AAV. I honestly believe that they probably would have given him a higher AAV, but it would have been on a shorter term. So in terms of overall money, he probably did get more from Carolina than what the Flyers were willing to offer him, in terms of like cumulative contract value. But I absolutely believe that Walker and Walker's camp were hoping for more. I think this was something of a, because I know the way Tulsky and Carolina work. Like, they're not shopping at the top of the market. They're looking for guys that they think can provide surplus value. And the fact that they ended up with Walker tells me that Walker wanted more at the beginning of this process. Teams weren't willing to give it to him. And then Carolina swooped in and were like, well, I know you said you wanted 5 3 weeks ago, but we'll give you 3.6 if we stretch out an extra 2 years, and you'll get more overall money anyway. What are your thoughts? And he's like, well, the 5-year, $5 million a year contracts didn't materialize, so I guess I'll take this one.
You could live worse places than Carolina as well. So maybe I wonder what the tax situation is down there.
Oh,
I just assume the whole South doesn't pay taxes. I don't know.
You're doing this in Kelly's honor, the taxes?
I am. Yes, someone has to bring it up. Since you mentioned Brett Pesce, Charlie, I want to talk about the Devils next. 11-1. Pretty good odds for a team that missed the playoffs and was horrible last year, but like the rest of us, I think Vegas sees, all right, they added some guys. They brought in the goalie they needed. If they have just not the worst injury luck possible, they're going to be a considerably better team next year. What do you think of the offseason? You mentioned Brett Pesci. They also bring in Brendan Dillon, Tomas Tatar, Stefan Nosen. What do you think of the Devils offseason?
Yeah, my first instinct with the Devils, and again, like they've done this before and disappointed, I thought they had the best offseason because they laser focused on addressing their biggest needs and they addressed them well. Like their biggest needs were goalie, and they got a goalie for not an insanely low price, but a reasonable price. They didn't overpay for a goalie. And then they got two defensemen who, and I'm very much an analytics person, but there is something to be said about getting defensemen who can actually play defense. And both Pesci and Dillon especially, are really good defenders. And I think that blue line core was lacking defenders, guys who will hit you, guys who will be tough to play against, and guys who can actually suppress shots and chances. And they have the puck moving talent. They have the skill on the back end. Obviously, they're going to be getting Dougie Hamilton back, so that's going to be a big boost. But they also have Luke Hughes who they're developing. They have Simon Nemec who they're developing. Those guys are still going to be a big part of it next year. But now they have guys that they can put next to them that can insulate those guys and maybe take some of the heavier roles that those guys aren't quite ready to take yet. They might be ready, especially somebody like Hughes who perhaps brings legitimate size to the table. He might be ready to do that when he's 25, 26, but it's going to take a bit before he learns the tricks of the trade, the right way to tie up a guy's stick to make sure you don't get burned in the corners or, you don't get fooled in front of the net, those types of things. They brought in guys that already, that's second nature to them. And they also still have all of the offensive firepower that made us like them in the first place as a legitimate potential dark horse cup contender. The Devils, yes, it is ambitious to give them those odds, but I come out of this offseason thinking that I would be shocked if the Devils miss the playoffs again this year. And if anything, I expect them to be right up near the top.
That's you look at the Devils odds at 11-1. Yeah, they're really good. On paper, awesome. They have the same odds as the Panthers, who just won the cup and have been there the last 2 years.
It's ambitious,
and have done nothing but lock up their entire core. You know what we're doing? Bringing everyone back. Okay, that's probably a good idea for the team that's won the East the last 2 years. But no, I do think the Devils, there was a lot of talk. Listen, the goaltending, the injuries, those were big issues for them. But they did think they lost a lot of toughness when they lost Damon Severson and who was it? Ryan Graves, the two defensemen who left them last year. They thought, yeah, this is just an element. While we do have these young, good puck movers, we just kind of don't have that defense element. It's very funny. We need defenders who can defend. No shit.
Yeah, and I think they thought they were going to get a lot more out of John Marino. I think the hope was that he was going to provide that element, and he just was a pure disappointment for them. I mean, that he just didn't live up to expectations. Now he's gone, and the hope on their part is that guys like Dillon and guys like Pesci will bring the element they thought they were getting in John Marino.
All right, so Chuck, I want to talk about those Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. They've got a lot of their core locked up long-term. They signed Lundell for 6 years. Now Barkov, and Tkachuk are all locked up for 6. Reinhart and Forsling signed for 8. That Aaron Ekblad is someone I want to talk to you about. I know I had designs on Victor Hedman. You mentioned that in the middle of last season. Maybe the Flyers could do something like that as a Chris Pronger type of move when Hedman is, but he re-signed there as well.
You can always trade for him.
You can always trade for him. That's true.
You never know.
Joffrey Lupo and Luca Spiza can get it done. But Ekblad now entering the final year of his contract. We talked they don't have that number one dude. Ekblad isn't that. But he is playing, 22, 23 minutes a night for the Stanley Cup champions. Is that something you might be interested in as a free agent next year if he hits the market?
I don't know. Ekblad's a good player, but I don't know if he's significantly better than a Travis Sanheim, than what they're hoping guys like Cam York and Oliver Bonk turn into. I don't know if he's quite my ideal, but he's good, and he won't be super old. I think he'll be 29 next summer. So I'm not saying I would rule it out entirely, but also you are getting the sense that the Flyers are kind of targeting 2026 as the summer when they're really going to open the checkbook up.
Fair,
So
yeah.
I don't know if they'd be willing to do it next summer, especially for a guy in Ekblad who, like, to me, is more of a good 2 than an actual 1. And he's presumably only going to get worse as he ages into his 30s. But he's an interesting name and he's a good player.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at that. I am just envious of teams that already have their core in place. That's and like, obviously everyone's envious of the Cup champions, but like I'm always like playing around in the notes app of my phone, like, okay, and they just fill in here and here and like try to put the lines together. It's like, if you're a Panthers fan, congratulations on jumping on the bandwagon. Good for you. And 2, it just must be nice to like look at your team and go, okay, this is what we're going with. You know, it's being a Flyers fan. It's like, yeah, I have Mishkov, and then hopefully some other guys turn into some stuff. I like Tyson Forster. You know, like that's what it is.
I think the big win for Florida this offseason, because they did lose some people. I mean, they lose Brandon Montour, who was real good for them over the last few years. They did lose Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who, like, more of a role guy, but he was good for them in a depth role this year. So their defense took some hits. Yeah, the defense took some hits, and they'll need to address that, whether, you know, internally or whether maybe at the trade deadline they're one of the teams that looks to go for a big name. But the big win for them was you keep Sam Reinhart, and you keep him on a pretty reasonable deal, given the fact that the guy scored over 50 goals this past year. I mean, like, he got an $8.625 million cap hit, and I think we are all very much expecting Travis Konecny to get a higher cap hit than that. Maybe he won't now, because that's not going to do much to help his comparables. But, like, Reinhart should be approaching 10. Like, he gave them an enormous discount on that deal, and that blew me away. I didn't think in a million years he was going to get below 9 AAV. So for him to give him that kind of, I mean, that is a, like, I want to chase cups discount. And, like, look, he's getting paid $8.5 million a year. It's a lot of money. But if he hit the open market, you have to believe he would have gotten offers way higher than that on a 7-year deal.
And we talked about it on Monday. Like, oh my, like, how could Konecny, who a 30-goal guy, now like a contract year, 56, 57 goals. He scored 70 total with the playoffs last year. Like, insane number of goals. It's like, oh yeah, well, Konecny wants 10. Like, well, he ain't getting it. Like, but that is the situation. One, again, the taxes, I know, but it's an accounting thing. It is something you do have to account for somewhat. And like, Travis Konecny isn't chasing cups by re-signing here. You know, like, there's he wants to be here. He likes it here, but it's not as if there's some awesome opportunity for him here that doesn't exist elsewhere, as is the case with Reinhart in Florida. So, like, I'm hoping that this comparable drives that Konecny price down, because I'm just... Yeah, you and I both agree on the Konecny extension. Like, it's going to be what it is. Probably not the best move, but it's not going to kill them, hopefully. And now with this Reinhart contract, maybe he comes in much cheaper than we expect. But, man, that number seems too low, even if the cap didn't go up. Like, like the guy scored a shit ton of goals. That's usually what you get paid for. But
I think the best way the contract was described, I think it was Dom from The Athletic who put it in his little tweet on the contract, was they signed Sam Reinhart to this deal in a world where he didn't have his breakout season this past year. Like, this is the contract he would have gotten had he just repeated his very good, like, near point per game season in 2022, 2023. It's as if both of the parties decided, last year wasn't real. That didn't happen, which is insane. Because in a contract year, the guy scored 57 goals. Like, usually that leads to massive overpays.
It's like they gave him an extension on July 1st, 2023. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. And then he'd be kicking himself like, son of a bitch, I just scored 57 goals. Why did I sign that extension? And it turns out, well, it all worked out the exact same anyway.
Signed it anyway.
That's what happens when you win the Eastern Conference consecutive years. Guys want to play for you. The Bruins, 19-1. They did make some upgrades. Like
They did.
we say the Flyers have no centers, and I like what the Bruins have, but they're not good. Like it's we're set at center, so they go and get Elias Lindholm, and then they add to the defense with Zadorov. I think they got better, and they also moved on from Ullmark, which is like their goalie tandem is what was so good for them. It's why they have a chance to win every night, and they put up 100-point seasons. Swayman, the better of the two, the younger of the two. So you go with him.
Yeah.
You go with him, but you don't know. It's a bit of a gamble. You don't quite know if he can carry that load every night. And you don't have the safety blanket of having the other guy now. What'd you think of the Bruins?
I didn't love their offseason, to be honest with you. I don't know if they're better. Now, luckily for them, they have a really good coach who coaches, really good X's and O's in Montgomery. So they just might be able to get more out of these guys than I think they are in terms of true talent level. Elias Lindholm is a good player. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Elias Lindholm is a $7.75 million a year player. Like, I just don't. I don't think he's that good. I think they overpaid for him. I think they gave him a contract that outweighs his actual on-ice skills. I mean, this year, in his contract year, he scored 44 points, 15 goals and 44 points. Like, that's not near $8 million value. Like for comparison's sake, he got less than $1 million a year less than Sam Reiner. And I get it. Lindholm's a center. He's a center. Reiner's mostly a wing. He can pop out at center sometimes, but he's primarily wing. But still, Lindholm is in Reiner's territory. He got a 7-year, $7.75 AAV deal. Reiner got an 8-year deal worth $8.625. That's in the same realm. And Reiner is so much better of a player than Lindholm. So I didn't love that signing, even though I acknowledge they needed centers, and Lindholm is a good center. I just think they overpaid him. And then Zadorov, same thing. It's not that Zadorov is a bad defenseman. He certainly brings that physicality, that size that teams are desperately looking for these days on the back end. I think he's an okay defenseman who they overpaid. Now, they've turned okay defensemen into looking like great defensemen because they're well coached. They adhere to a system, and maybe that's going to be the case here too. But I just look at them as, I don't know if they got better. They overpaid their two big signings in Zadorov and Lindholm in my mind. They lost Jake DeBrusk finally, and he's a pretty good player. DeBrusk is good. They've been trying to trade him for the last half decade, but he's a good winger, and he's gone. And that goalie tandem was a big part of their success. And I understand why they did it. It makes sense. You go with the younger guy. You weren't going to be able to keep both of them. Makes sense. But that goalie tandem was a big part of why they succeeded and why they were able to overcome the fact that their centers have stunk ever since, when Bergeron and Krejci disappeared. So can a tandem of Swayman and Korpisalo do the same thing? Swayman's probably going to be good. I have no idea what to expect from Korpisalo. And if they're only getting high-end goaltending in 45 games rather than 82, they might be due for a dip. I didn't love their offseason personally. That's just kind of where I'm coming from.
Interesting. Very interesting. I just look at what they got by with at center last year. And maybe that's just so not replicable that they have a dip no matter what. But it's okay, if they can get similar production and then put Lindholm with Pasta, I see it a little bit. But yeah, it's the thing that made them is their goaltending, and it's not quite of a sure thing now as it was. I want to talk about the Blue Jackets just because I find their offseason interesting. 200-1 if you really feel like flushing some money down the toilet at BetParks. So it's the summer of reunions for them. They reunite Sean Monahan with Johnny Gaudreau. They played together in Calgary. And 12 years after trading him, after losing him in the Jeff Carter trade, he's back. Jack Johnson is a Blue Jacket once again, Charlie. Man, it just must feel great for them.
Well, it wasn't 12 years ago. He spent a lot more time because he was the guy who got traded to Columbus.
Oh no, I have it backwards. Yeah, I have it backwards.
Yeah. So he spent a lot of time in the middle of it.
No, that doesn't make sense. They traded away Jeff Carter. Yeah,
but it's been a while. To go Stain voice. It's been a while. But no, he spent some time elsewhere. Played in Pittsburgh for a little bit on a bad contract. Now he's back on a cheap deal. it was particularly analytically oriented Columbus fans. It would be like if they brought Andrew McDonald back, like for Flyers fans, like everyone was just like, oh my God, I thought we were done with this. They all have like PTSD from watching Jack Johnson get absolutely killed every night in the top four. I don't think he'll be a top four defenseman here. And by all accounts, he's a really good dude. And like Columbus is going to stink anyway. So, hey, if he wants to be like the sixth defenseman mentor guy, sure, why not? The Monahan deal is fascinating to me because on its face, it's insane. Like, this is a terrible Columbus team. Why are you giving a 30-year-old that kind of contract? The only way it makes sense, and I get it, is you've got Johnny on an enormous contract. And I guess if you want any chance of that contract maybe not being an albatross around your neck for into the next decade, maybe you got to put an emphasis on keeping him happy. And maybe Monahan will keep him happy.
Yeah, that team just needed something. Johnny, I love him. I do wish he was a Flyer. He had 60 points last year. Like, he needs something. What I've been told from different people about Johnny is like, he's awesome at playing with other really good players. Like, you will get maximum him with other great guys, but he doesn't make anyone else better, if that makes sense. And like, you just kind of need, and Monahan is someone who played with him for a long time. They have already both said like, oh yeah, we just have great chemistry. Like, we think this is going to work out well for us. But it's very funny. Like, yeah, he's 30, man. What are you doing here? But we talked about this on Monday as well. These medium and small market teams, like, selling tickets, selling jerseys, and maybe making the playoffs is a big deal for them. Like, you can't miss the playoffs a ton of times in a row if you're one of these teams, you know? Getting to the second round was an incredible accomplishment for them. It's why they didn't sell those guys, because it's like, this is keeping the team afloat if we get to the second round of the playoffs, even though we knew we were losing them all as free agents. Like, it just is what it is with the Blue Jackets. But at some point, they just have to not be terrible. Like, you look at their roster and you're like, there's some names on, like, there's some guys on this team. Like, they're not completely devoid of talent. But it is funny, like you mentioned Jack Johnson. It's like Sean Walker. I don't think he had any points in the playoffs for Colorado. And some Colorado fans were like, good, I don't want him back. And some others were like, well, what did you want from him in the playoffs? He was stapled to Jack Johnson. Like, that's how good Colorado is. They can go with him every night because everyone else on their roster is awesome. Yeah. But it is. How's he still in the league? I feel like he sucked for 15 years.
I mean, he's apparently a really good dude, and he's big, and he can skate a little bit still. So he's got a job for life. No, I will say with Columbus, like, I think Columbus in the short term is fucked. Like, I just don't think they're a very good team. But I do like what they're doing in terms of building down the middle. And this is completely neglecting Monahan because, like, whatever, he's old, and he'll if need be, they'll kick him out to wing long term. But I like the I mean, they're setting up for potentially a really good 1-2-3 punch with Fantilli, with Caden Lidstrom, who they took this draft, and then Cole Sillinger. Like, that could be a really formidable, like, 1-2-3 top 9 down the middle for years to come. If Fantilli, I think Fantilli is going to be a stud. Lidstrom, there's some concerns about the back, but if he's healthy, he should be a stud. And Sillinger, while I was always skeptical, he was like a legitimate top line guy. If he's your 3C, he's a good 3C.
Yeah, I just like, they're so bad, and like, shit just keeps going wrong for that. It's just a weird franchise. Anyone else on this list you really feel like we need to talk about? The Capitals, we talked their offseason's been kind of interesting. The Sens get Olmark, they should be better. The Predators kind of going all in here with Stamkos, Marcia Show, and Brady Shea. Like, that's a pretty interesting team down there.
Well, one team that I just don't understand what they're doing is Pittsburgh. Like, I don't, like, with Washington, as we talked about earlier, I know exactly what they're doing. They know that they are not a cup contender, but they want to be decent for the rest of Alex Ovechkin's tenure. And that's what they're doing. They're loading up. You know, they make a pretty solid trade for Jacob Chikrin, you know, given the fact they didn't give up jack shit really for him. They upgraded Nick Jensen to him, and they gave up like a third. Like, cool, I'll do that deal. I didn't like the Dubois trade at all, but like he's talented and he will help them. I'm sure he could just be their new mercurial guy replacing Kuznetsov.
Yeah,
Like that's
he's
just a
just
role.
new Kuznetsov. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just new Kuznetsov. But like they got better. They got better and they will be in the playoff bubble. Whereas Pittsburgh, like they're in the same boat where they've got Crosby, they got Malkin, they got Letang, they got Carlson, they got all these older guys that are aging. And like the move they made was to take on Kevin Hayes' final 2 years. Like that's like, what are you doing? Are you rebuilding? Are you tanking? Like this feels like it's like, I thought you fired Ron Hextall because he was doing these kinds of things. And then Kyle Dubas goes out and has a Ron Hextall summer.
That's like, if they were to be rebuilding, like, yeah, take on a dumb contract, and it's only 50% of a bad contract for a second rounder. Sure, the Flyers have all sorts of dead money. They're doing things like that. It makes sense. But they're trying to compete. Like, it's a thing they're trying to do. I can see why Kevin Hayes got ghosted. Like, he was horrible last year. I do not understand why the Penguins were the team to be like, yes, we will be the recipients of this dump. That's very odd to me, but good. Hopefully they suck. But just are a little better than the Flyers for the draft pick.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to talk about the Red Wings because they bring in they re-sign Patrick Kane, they bring in Tarasenko, Cam Talbot, and now Gustafson, man. Eric Gustafson has put together quite a jersey collection for himself. He just needs the Bruins. He just needs the Bruins to round out the original 6. Also, Flyers in there, a few more. Man, he's well-traveled for not even the best player in the Flyers franchise's history of that name. I don't know if there's too many more teams that need talking. The Blackhawks just decided to spend a bunch of money. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, okay. I guess they want to not be absolutely embarrassing to watch this year.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to be good, but I guess they want to give Bedard some support. I haven't followed the Blackhawks offseason too closely enough to like actually have an opinion other than like, yeah, they signed a lot of dudes who are okay, I guess. Like they brought Teuvo Teravainen back, neat.
Yeah.
Because they originally drafted him. Nashville is also fascinating to me because like they got better. They absolutely got better.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got better enough to actually contend. And if they didn't get better enough to actually contend, then like, what's the point? So they're going to be more fun, but it probably goes back to what we were saying last week, what you even mentioned earlier in the show, that they're a small market team. You know, maybe their goal isn't necessarily like cup or bust. It's let's make the playoffs and win a couple rounds.
No, that's when they re-upped UC Soros is like, wait, don't they have a guy? But they're just deciding to keep going with Soros, and that's what teams in those situations do. Like, but we have this established thing, and we're hoping this other guy is it. We're sticking with the established thing because we need to be at least at this level. That's what I get from their moves. Like we are trying if we can get better, great, but we need to maintain.
Yeah, one thing I do want to bring up because it happened while we were on the show.
Oh, okay.
There was a trade, not Flyers related. Buffalo, which fascinating trade because this guy was a highly touted prospect for them. Buffalo traded Matthew Savoy, the 11th overall pick in 2022 to Edmonton for Ryan McLeod, who is definitely a quality NHL player, but a lower ceiling, like third liner type. You know, he's really fast. But Matthew Savoy is 2 years ago, he was a first round pick and he was a top 15 pick. Like that seems to imply that they kind of soured on him, right?
It must mean that. That's interesting. I thought McLeod was good for Edmonton in the playoffs as well, but we'll see how that works out. And now some of these odds, the teams I've given you over this last segment, I got these odds from the BetParx Sportsbook app. We're brought to you by the BetParx app. You can get in the zone with BetParx Sportsbook because money is in the moments. What events are coming up? Well, it's baseball every day, fam. I'm seeing all these soccer tweets and everything. Apparently, if it's your thing, there's some soccer going on. Bet on it at BetParx. But there you go. I'll tell you, it's baseball every day. And Alec Boehm in the home run derby. Boom run derby? I don't know. It's such a weird pick. I bet you can get pretty damn good odds over at Bet Parks. I don't know if those have been released yet, but I'll definitely be looking for them when they pop up. But if you win your first $10 bet at Bet Parks, you can earn 125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while we're here, I got to tell you about subscribing to be a diehard, damn it. We're putting out so much real good content right now. And by we, I mean Charlie, along with Alex Appleyard. I work here, but I'm just selling it to you. I'm not doing any of the writing. But the stuff that they're putting out, especially Alex's prospect stuff, it's all diehard only. Charlie, you've been doing a great job as well. You've pumped stuff out the last couple of weeks. It has been insane, the amount of content that has gone up on the site for diehards. You got to go to allphly.com right now and sign up. And not only do you get the exclusive Charlie content, the Alex Appleyard stuff, you get access to the Discord. You get a discount on events and merch, and you get all of our other awesome writers as well. It's not like you just get Charlie, which well worth the money by himself, but you get all of our awesome roster and all of their content too. Go to allphly.com right now. Sign up to be a diehard. You won't regret it. And maybe if you want to meet some of this great roster talent, you want to come out to the Valley Brook Country Club on July 13th for the inaugural PHLY Liberty Open in Blackwood, New Jersey. Big golf tournament brought to you by our friends at Shady Rays and TrueMark Financial Credit Union. It's going to be a great time. Starts at 2 o'clock on Saturday, July 13th. You get a cart, 18 holes. There's going to be unlimited draft beer for 2 hours after your round ends. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So come on out to the inaugural PHLY Liberty Open. And I am so happy to see that we have spelled inaugural correctly. Way to go, everyone. We've done it. We've done it. And finally, the Mitchkov Mania shirt, baby. It's running wild. You got to get your Mitchkov Mania shirt before they sell out. Head to PHLYlocker.com right now. Get that shirt. Do it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Eat your vitamins, say your prayers. Get your Mitchkov Mania shirt. All right, Charlie, do we have anything else today?
No, I think we're good.
That is just about all the time. Oh, yeah, right. I said I was going to do Super Chats after the reads and then totally forgot. We do have the Super Chat to get to. Only one today. Can you compare TK to Elias Lindholm, who signed for 7.75 AAV in Boston?
Yeah, we talked about him a little bit. The comparison is Travis Konecny's a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, Lindholm is a better two-way player, and obviously Lindholm's a center and TK's a winger. But if you're talking purely from a scoring standpoint, it's not even close. You know, Lindholm's a guy, as I said, 40-something points this year, 15 goals. Travis Konecny is close to the point per game, near 40-goal pace on a yearly basis the last couple of years. So while the Reinhart contract might push down Konecny's ass, the Lindholm contract definitely has Konecny being like, yeah, maybe Reinhart makes you think you can get me for less than you think, but also like if you're trying to ask me to take under 8, a hell of a lot better than this guy, and he is.
I see that, and it's going to be over 8. Yeah, like that's I think a foregone conclusion. I just think like UFA center. I just don't know how much. Yeah. I don't know how much of a comparable there is. Like, other than, TK's a better player. I'd rather have TK. But, like, Lindholm did finish, I think, second in Selke voting a couple years ago. So he does have some other qualities. But at the end of the day, it's the goals and assists that really dictate what you get paid. And Konecny puts up considerably more of them than Lindholm does. So we'll see how it works out. But thank you. Anna Mayhem. I think that's what the name was.
Anna Mayhem?
Sure. Something like that. And that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers for this week. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. I hope everyone continues having an amazing Independence Day weekend because we celebrate all summer around here, damn it. So I hope you all have a great time. Thank you to our sponsor, our presenting sponsor each and every day, our great friends at Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. All right, that's it. I'm Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. We will see you on Monday, fam. Stay loose and sexy.